Right, I think I'm ready. Are you guys ready? Cool. Let's rock and roll. Hey, look at that. It's another week under the belt. Another week closer to the end of the year or Christmas or end of lockdown, whichever way you want to look at it. This is episode number 56 of the BFN podcast, and it is part 2 of my conversation with Henk Kotzee. If you didn't catch the first part, episode 55, do yourself a favor and listen to that one first before sliding into this one. If you did catch last week's episode, here's part 2 of Henk Kotzee. And then, you were talking about you were involved in the tire business, and then you had your own business. Am I correct in saying that you were working out of Woodstock, out of the Woodstock Motor Company area?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So Devin and I, the owner of Woodstock Motor Co., we were, met each other every now and then for a coffee. When I popped in there the first time, we did a social ride thing with them a weekend after I met him. So I would keep in touch and pop in for a coffee every now and then. And those were sort of Look What You're Missing and Continental days. That was sort of towards the end of Look What You're Missing. I got the opportunity with Conti, and I was working for a company distributing their products. So, yeah, I was not really actively part in all the Woodstock Motor Co. type of stuff, the busy Saturdays and things, but I would pop in every now and then for a coffee and have a chat with the guys. And obviously, you'd know Kyle from Wolf Moto.
I know the name. I've never actually, I don't think I've met him, man.
So he also moved from KZN down to Cape Town, started in Motorco, or, carried on in Motorco at the time. So, I became mates with the guys and would go there every now and then. And then the Continental thing sort of changed. They gave up the distributorship, and I was deciding, do I join the guys that's doing it now? Do I sort of join them on a freelance basis, or do I, what's next? And it was right after Nampu that year, that big old show in the Free State.
Yeah.
And a spin-off off Nampu and a couple of other things, I basically decided to, at the time it was just trading tires, not doing fitment and all of that. So just buy and sell to whoever, some of the old shops and bike shops that was buying from me, and then obviously direct to the public. And there's with that industry, you face quite a steep uphill battle if you do that sort of thing. If you do online sales only, or you do trading in such a way, and you don't do fitment, there's a lot of sort of strong arming in the industry where the guys keep products from you or trying to keep products from you, and they just make your life a nightmare.
Becomes cutthroat.
Yeah, it's very aggressive for a passion-driven hobby industry. Strangely, anyway, so one day I was sitting having this conversation with Devin. I said to him, "Geez, I need to seriously consider putting up a proper fitment center. I think the industry is driving me in that direction." We had a conversation. Carl, at that point, he was out of there for I think 6 or 7 months at the time, and Gavin had some space available. And I was looking for a bit of a destination in a sense. I was looking for a nice place where the guy can sit and drink a coffee and have a good conversation with like-minded people while I'm tinkering on his bike in the background. So not really thinking about Motorco. My mind was more northern suburbs related, because obviously just commuting and stuff would have been a easier decision to do it around here. But anyway, we were sitting there having a coffee, and I was telling him about this, and he said, "Well, gosh, why don't you pull in here? There's space available. The community is there." And he felt that it would just add to Motorco. For me, it was a brilliant solution. It was great for me as well. He had a whole community that he brought with the premises.
Yeah.
Then Cape Bike Tire happened. So, or Cape Bike Tire became the, that was our house now, where we settled. So I opened full-on fitment, and we started doing a little bit more than that, change sprockets and fixing wheels and spokes and all these sort of things, and a little bit of retail, like Albert's Go Gravel stuff. So lots of a mini version of Flying Brick or Paulie's GPS Africa, but more focused on the tire sales and the fitment. That's how I ended up in Motorco. And it's so sad that it's closed down. I obviously understand why. It's like raising a child. It's such a intense thing, and I think Devon's photography and other stuff has always been just a battle to pick which one gets the most attention.
Sure. Yeah.
And Monaco is just sort of another thing on his plate that he just didn't have the time for. I understand that you just get like tied up with everything else. You can't get to the, you can't get to everything.
Yeah.
But it was a great thing. It's a nice other segment of the industry that I was never really part of, or I think in the beginning days didn't even know existed, if I'm honest. Like the custom guys and all that sort of stuff. I was never part of that. For me, it's always been adventure riding. It's always been about, this thing happened to be called adventure riding. For me, it was always taking your bike and buggering off somewhere into the Gramadulas where nobody knows where you are.
Yeah.
So it was part of the industry and the whole thing, the whole lifestyle, rather than just having this, sole off-road riding goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good thing. I enjoyed most of it. It was really time well spent and some good mates made in that place.
Yeah. When I came down to Cape Town a little while ago, a mate of mine lives in Fishhook. He's got 2 Harleys. We do a bike trip around there. We'd stop there at Motorco, grab something to drink, buy a T-shirt. We happened to go to one or two of the motor socials as well there in Cape Town, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a nice concept as well. I think the whole Motorco thing is the whole motor social thing.
Yeah.
Just to me, I think there's a lot of sort of lost opportunity in a sense from the guys that's been in the industry for so long. They don't see the young guys and the eager guys. If you rock up with a little bented and broken in half little XT something or the other, 175 or something like that, the guy's like, whatever, here's a bottle of 2-stroke, bugger off. That's sort of the treatment you get in a sense from the guys that's been in the industry for that long. But they don't realize, that chap is just 1 or 2 paychecks away from buying a Ducati or a GS or a flipping 20,000 rand suit, whatever it is. It's just a matter of time. He's a youngster. He's keen, and if you can make him part of the family now, then you've got him.
Absolutely.
But I think that's the nice thing. The motor social and even the Motorco concept in general was that's Devon's passion in a sense. For me, it was an immediate fit. Yeah. Getting people onto bikes is his thing, and getting people once they're on bikes to get them sort of take the bike and do something has always been my thing. You've got the bike, you've spent the money, you've gone through all the effort, now go and ride the damn thing.
Yeah.
There's so much out here. It's crazy the amount of roads and crazy stuff that we have around every city in this country. Never mind Cape Town, it's just spectacular. But you've gone through all these motions, you've had all these dreams, and there's so much of this that I see in every age group. The age group I'm now sort of floating into this, heading towards the mid-40s and that sort of thing, is those guys, there's so many of them that end up buying the bike, and those are the bikes that we love buying secondhand because they've been standing polished in a garage somewhere, never ridden.
Yes.
So it's really good for the secondhand market and for us to afford bikes. But those guys, I love, interacting with someone like that because they're so damn keen. They just sometimes just too scared, or they don't have that environment where they can just try the bike out, go and ride, or go on a short little, weekend ride with someone. And that's, Devon's getting them into the thing has always been his, getting onto the bikes and to try it out. It's been his passion. And for me, it was just riding into the second sector where you actually then go and do it.
Yeah.
So it's a good relationship. We still chat every now and then. He's helping me from time to time to promote our training events. So it's a nice environment. It's just a nice bunch of people.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think that is the thing with, once you've, there's almost like that camaraderie with the bikers.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the other night when we were chatting to Albert from Go Gravel, is that like once you find yourself a good bunch of people, I mean, it's really...
It's amazing,
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the kind of thing that I live for. I mean, like now under lockdown, I'm missing hanging with, going for breakfast and going for a ride and, whatever, going for trips and, whatever.
It's a hell of a frustrating. It's been a weird one for me. I've kind of surprised myself in a sense because I also got into the whole, sourdough. I've got 2 breads that's just been baked tonight, so I've got into the whole Facebook sourdough gardening, redoing the house.
Making
I've
beer?
gone through all of those.
Making beer?
Lots of kombucha and ginger beer.
Okay.
My father-in-law, there's a whole pile of beer lab stuff. I'll actually show you this just for effect. This is
Yes.
heading off
right.
to the Northern Transvaal for Squinpa's beer. My father-in-law is a beer brewer, so we literally picked it up today.
Okay,
But
cool.
I'm a bad drinker at the moment. I go through these drinking phases, so I'm on kombuchas and ginger beers at the moment. But I've done that whole, the whole sort of social media, Facebook stereotype. That's me.
Yeah.
So much so that I literally didn't ride the bikes. I pushed them in and out the yard once or twice while I was busy painting and what have you.
Yeah.
And my wife gets irritated with me because I get literally annoyed if I have to go on a breakfast ride, like an organized breakfast run or something. I'm ticked off the day before the time already. That whole thing of leaving here, putting the suit on, putting the helmet on, and then going, I drove the bucky there yesterday. I know where it is. I don't want to go there. I want to go somewhere I haven't been before.
Exactly.
Put me
yeah.
on my bike and then not see me for 3 weeks. Yeah, hell yes. But this whole, go there and come back in the same day thing, I struggle with it.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law, they also live here in Cape Town now, and he started this stupid WhatsApp group with a small bunch of friends of ours saying Henk wil nie bike ry nie, to to try and get me. Started this like a couple of weeks ago to try and get some pressure to get the guys to to give me shit so we can actually get on the bikes and go and ride.
Yeah,
which we then did. Like 2 weekends ago, we went on a quick little, darling around some gravel roads and back, and it was really nice. It was nice to do, out on the same day, back on the same day, but I survived.
Yeah.
So it's so weird that all the people you speak to, such different sort of levels of what's next and frustration and
Yeah.
want to go and ride and also don't really know can you. It's just been this whole ongoing thing,
Yeah, it is.
But yeah.
It is sad. Yeah. Yeah. 2021. Please come quickly.
Hey man.
Yeah. 2020.
Yeah, it's
we must
crazy.
leave 2020 behind us quickly. Yeah. So yeah, let's
just,
talk about your training and your tours. I mean, so your training. Where you running your training out of?
So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's happened and it's changed quite a bit. So I got involved with a company called Ride Expeditions.
Okay.
And they do South African tours, but they do international tours. They were sort of Cambodia, India, Mongolia, Vietnam, all over the show. South Africa, Namibia as well. And it's also just a chap that came on a ride with me. I didn't know at the time the bugger. He was basically doing research for his South African tour. He came on not just one of my organized weekend rides. But met him there a good couple of months later, sold him a tire, and then when he came in to fit the tire, we just got talking. And at the time, I'm doing it for a couple of guys, but I'm still trying to sort of sell the concept. Especially in Cape Town, there's so many rental, adventure bike rental guys, and I've been speaking to him about the same conversation, or the conversation started the same way. That you've got all these foreigners that really know. I mean, a couple of them maybe are proper riders, but most of the guys are sort of pavement punchers. They do pavement roads or hard pack gravel roads every now and then. They don't understand and don't really know what they're letting themselves in for to go through Baviaans and places like that.
Sure.
So I said, bring your tour group to me with their rental bikes. We prep the bikes, we set up the bikes for them, handlebars, mirrors, all that sort of stuff. Get them nice and comfortable on the bikes. Spend sort of a good half a day with them, just getting them nice and comfortable on those bikes, on the type of terrain they experience, and then you go off the next morning on your tour.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, great idea. I'd love to talk about it more. We're actually selling the South African tours like that. The one specific South African tours actually starts like that now with the Ride Expeditions. But that's how the conversation started. And he said to me, but, won't you be interested in doing freelance guiding for us on some of our other tours? And I obviously fell off my chair and ran up with hands in the air saying yes. So, and then long story short, I ended up spending like half of their India season in India for them last year.
Oh wow!
So it's all really sort of fresh and new. Was amazing. I absolutely loved it. A lot of time away from home, which is kind of rough.
Yeah.
But it's a dream thing to be able to do, and then do it for a day job makes it even better.
Yes.
So then I got into again a long conversation, but I ended up selling the tire fitment center.
Yes.
And committed to doing the tours and the training basically permanently or full time. So, like I said to you earlier, the concept is the beginning of the year, January, February, March-ish. We don't really have any tours on the go. The season really only starts around sort of end of sort of summer, rolling into start of winter, and then through South African winter at least, and into November we. As Rides with Expeditions is really quite busy. So this year would have been just a dreamy year biking-wise for me. I would have been June, July, like this month, next month, I would have been in Mongolia for 2 months, and then India for the rest of the year, doing the Himalayan tours.
Oh, wow. And then what sort of bikes are you doing it there? Are you doing it in Enfields, or what bikes are you doing?
In India, yes. So in Mongolia, we actually... So the concept is basically, Ride Expeditions partners with a local organization that ideally owns bikes.
Okay.
Maybe they do their own tours, or they're a bike rental company or something like that, but they're locals that live in the area and they have bikes. And the guys we partnered with in Mongolia, through that partnership, we basically decided to buy brand new 450 KTMs.
Okay.
Because you don't spend time on tarmac there. There's no tarmac. You just basically pick direction in your ride, and it's like single track animal trails and things for a large percentage of the tour. So it's the 450 KTMs in Mongolia, and then the Indian thing has always been ride your Royal Enfield in the Himalayas. So we've got the Bullets, the classics. We still offer those, but we sort of slowly pushing the guys towards the Himalaya.
Yes.
It's just that little bike is, it's got the name. It's purpose built for that terrain. It is the better bike to ride up there. It's a hell of a lot more comfortable than the classics. And they just don't give us any issues. They just work. They're brilliant little bikes. It's just phenomenal how good they are. I'm surprised how good they are actually. So the India thing, that's that. Like Cambodia, it's also off-road bikes. It's a mixture between KTMs and Hondas. And each country's got its different things. The South African, Namibian stuff is obviously the big GSs and big adventure bikes.
Yeah.
So you can go through the tour package and they sort of, find the crazy enduro thing where you're flying, through mud all day, or, you're riding a couple of tar roads and a couple of easy off-road roads on a big GS. So anyway, that was the concept, is doing the training, and doing some training on tours, and then obviously the tours when that's in season. Next year again looks really promising. We've got a lot of extended dates, also purely because of a lot of bookings, but also a lot of the guys from this year just saying, okay, we'll just roll it into next year.
Yeah, sure.
So it's just a hurry up and wait situation for now.
Yeah, but that sounds exciting though.
It's amazing. I mean, this year, my wife was going to come with me to India, because we wouldn't have seen each other basically from the start of June, or sort of end of April, sort of end of May. I would have been gone till midway through November. So we decided she's going to come to India with me for like a 2-week holiday, but then do one of the tours with me. But earlier in the year, in February, I had a group of clients that wanted to do a Lesotho trip. And it's also something that's been going for a couple of months, and we eventually got everybody to buy into dates in February. And then we'd like, does she come with me to Lesotho and waste that leave, or does she stay home and then obviously come to India? And eventually we decided, bugger it, we'll, back up vehicle and make it a proper organized tour for the clients. And she'll bring we'll drive the backup vehicle and come with us to Lesotho. Thank goodness nobody at that stage knew that COVID's going to happen.
Yes.
So we did a nice group, an awesome bunch of guys, and we did a really cool ride through all the crazy stuff in Lesotho. in February. And that was that was sort of the note of the time, but that was the highlight of 2020 right there. So so far. But yeah, so I do when I'm again with the training and when I'm in South Africa, I try and do weekend rides, like commercial paid customer rides, a couple of weekends, 1 or 2 day weekend rides, and I try. I'd like to do 1 or 2 bigger trips, like a Lesotho one or a Swaziland one or something like that.
Yeah.
I've got a group of guys that's now nagging to do Namibia beginning of next year. So I'll always do little bits of that sort of stuff when I'm spending time in South Africa. But I suppose the main focus is the actual training events, and then obviously get to tour season later in the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've done a lot of touring around South Africa over the last couple of years, or the last 10 years?
Yeah, a decent amount. I've done quite a lot of Lesotho, strangely. 2013, with that, when the whole Look What You're Missing sort of filming thing started, I just joined a local guy that does like big trips like this as well locally. Just basically one of the BMW club guys that always does some tours. And we did 12 days around Lesotho. So we went in and out of Lesotho 9 times through different stupid mountain passes, the ongeluksneks and those sort of things.
Yeah.
And besides the stuff that was I think that's the only trip I've done with like an organized thing with someone else. All the other stuff I've done is either more recent, the stuff that I've done myself, organized and planned myself, and then most of the bigger trips away from the Western Cape and the Northern Cape, and a little bit of Eastern Cape, has all been my wife and I just going on a ride, the two of us. So we've done a couple of those sort of through the Lowveld, Sabi, Nelspruit up there. I had some family up there. And then obviously Lustrigard all the way up there where both our folks live. And yeah, pretty much everywhere. I've got a good couple of mates in the Free State, some of the like Stefan Boshoff and those guys, and Neelis from Safari 4x4. So they've directed me through some of the really nice spots around their area. So it's always nice to know people all over the show.
Yeah.
You always get these sneaky little roads that you don't necessarily ever come across.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Western Cape has just been crazy.
So much riding to do there, man.
And everything that's within reach in a weekend or a long weekend.
Cape Town.
The weirdest thing is, man, I can't explain. With Look What You're Missing, you can imagine the amount of time we spend riding is just crazy. And Warren's thing has always been to try and do a different road to the same place that we haven't done before. So I was, until really just before Lesotho, right around New Year's, or right around the end of the year, actually. I think it was December and January. I was convinced the Tankwa, I can just about draw a map for you, and I know all the roads. I've been on all of them. And I had a random conversation with a chap I do this crazy thing to Verneekpan, between Christmas and New Year's, those couple of days between New Year's.
Yeah.
Just after Christmas Day, we go Verneekpan, and then we basically come back for New Year's. And one of the guys that joined me on that trip, we were just chatting, and he was saying, "Oh no, you know what? When you at the Tankwa Padstal, that random, you've been there, the roadside stop. So when you the road that's right next to it," and he's explaining it. I said, yes, I know the humps, the gates. I know exactly what roads. No, not that one. There's 2 Ks. There's another one gate. There's no gate there. There's farm roads. Somebody's going to shoot at you. True as nuts. It's a road I've never ridden. No clue that it's a public road signs, the whole thing. No farmers with sharp and knives and guns. None of that. It's an open road.
Yeah.
So that's the crazy thing, is there's still places and still little roads that you discover that I had no clue existed.
Yeah.
Even with the amount of riding and all the people that you in the community that you talk to that do all these rides and what have you, and you think you know all the roads, or you've at least been on it once before, but there's always something else.
Yeah. So
always another little road.
So when I first bought my bike, do you know this book? Yeah. So this was my introduction to adventure riding, without going for training, right? And I mean, it's got some really, really nice routes in here, which at the time that I bought the book, I said, okay, I'm going to go through these and I'm going to tick them off one by one. Okay, I haven't really done that, but that's where I got the idea to do the Rooiberg Pass. Was to do this.
Well done.
And it was an awesome ride. Yeah, but I must tell you, talking about farm roads and that kind of stuff, I must tell you what I would do is I would go into Google Earth, right? And I would now I'm looking in Johannesburg, and I would go, okay, let me find a dirt road. I find a dirt road, and I see, and then I made this mistake once. Well, actually, I made it twice. I would say, okay, there's a road there, and I would map out a whole route, and I'd put it on my GPS, and off I'd go. I would go out to Parys, Vredefort Dome area.
Yeah.
I did, and I would ride down this road, fucking gate. Turn around, go to fucking gate. But I mean, you got all these beautiful roads that you can see on Google Earth, and you say, oh man, I want to go ride that dirt road. Meanwhile, some farmers, with these gates, and anyway, yeah. So I was really disappointed.
Growing up in that sort of what used to be the Northern Transvaal, you don't go down a gravel road if there's a gate. You don't open it if there's a lock or something on it or not. You don't open a gate and then ride through it.
Yes.
And by no means do you drive through Oaks. Basically, feels sometimes like his living room. You don't drive between his shed and his house and just bugger off down his farm. That's where I grew up. That's like a share beton.
Exactly.
And that was one of the weirdest things when we really got stuck in and started properly riding around the area. There's so many of these little roads. They just give way, or what do they call them in English? Like deurgang paaie. It's basically just it's just access to 3 or 4 farms down the road, and you can just ride through the Oaks living room. I mean, you literally drive around the shed, back behind the backyard. It's just mental. It's the craziest thing to me. Even now, still, I'm the guy that goes, moron all the way there, 2 k's an hour through the yard, and then flying past when you're on the other side. I don't dare drive fast through these Oaks farmyards.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just you're in East Space, you just don't do it.
Yeah.
But it was a weird concept to get used to, that it's accepted. You can, those are open public roads.
Yeah.
And there's a crazy one. I don't know if you know Ronnie's Sex Shop, obviously.
Yeah.
So off the 62, right past Ronnie's Sex Shop, there's that spot called Warmwaterberg, that sort of hot spring thing. So if you're driving past Ronnie's Sex Shop on the opposite side of the road, there's a road that turns off to this hot spring, just a privately owned hot spring. But that road, if you follow that road further on, there's a place called Sambona. It's a private reserve. But the road it's a public road, but you can imagine they've got the big 5 just about in there. I think elephants the only things they don't have. So they've got rhino and giraffe and all these sort of crazy animals in this park. So you drive up, you get this big massive security booth thingy with electric fencing and a big old game gate and fence, and they can't refuse you. They guide you through. So but they're obliged to they have to open the gate and let you through. But if you're on a motorcycle, they obviously, for lion's sake, and rhino and thing, they guide you through the park. So you might sit there for 45 minutes or an hour if you really tick them off, to wait for the chappie to come with a bucky, and then you ride your bike through this reserve with the big 5, just above the big 5. You ride through this reserve on your bike, and we've seen rhino like that. We've ridden past rhino on the bike. And the guy he drives in front, or he lets you drive in front depending on the chap, and you have to stick to the speed limit, but they take you all the way through to whatever exit you're using, and off you go again into the the rest of your ride. So it's crazy things like that.
Yeah, jeez, I would.
It doesn't happen everywhere. It's not the sort of thing you can experience everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some special ones.
Yeah. So am I right in saying that you were involved with the GS Trophy a couple of years ago?
Yeah. So we were... my dates and stuff is terrible. I can't remember the dates.
Was this the one that was held in Montague?
So it's a longer story. I've done a couple of like the qualifiers and that sort
Okay.
of stuff, the actual challenge part of it.
Yeah.
And the very first one I did, it was great. I did the qualifier in Cape Town, came first in the qualifier, part of the Western Cape team. I went up to Badplaas was the one, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, Thomas did the routes, so it was up there in his valley. And then I destroyed a mate's bike. I rode a bike off. I broke a 1200 just about in half
Ooh.
on the Friday. So I then ended up in hospital instead of doing the actual challenge.
Oh,
So
no.
and then I got out of the taking part thing. You can imagine with a flipping big old concussion and that sort of accident, you just don't, you're not operating on the same level for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So I've taken part in all but last year's qualifiers since then. But it's like a bring all your mates and have a good afternoon riding some bikes and do some silly stuff. It's really just been a for the fun thing for me in the local qualifiers. But because of Look What You're Missing and some of the opportunities we've had to meet the guys from Motorrad South Africa and good made some good friends there, Edgar and the guys that's running the show there now, I'm actually good friends with. They're really quite a cool team. Sort of through those channels I got nagging, and I've had a couple of conversations with guys like Jan and Stefan and Edgar, Alex at the time, that was Alex Baraka, and a whole bunch of the dealers. And anyway, so I sort of got my finger into a pie where I didn't really knew I wanted it at the time, nagging to try and get the GS Trophy moved to the Western Cape for a year.
Okay.
And then it triggered a whole lot of things down the line, which we eventually got the powers that be, the marketing team, Sky, and the team that was running it at the time. We got them convinced to look at this. And then it was a case of picking towns. There's a couple of towns on the table. I personally believe Montague was it. I think Montague from the start was the best option. There's lots of good arguments for other places, but I think Montague's got so much to offer from a riding perspective and a town perspective. So a lot of nagging and a lot of pitching all kinds of clever ideas. We got it sort of as okayed, and the clubs, BMW clubs and Motorrad bought in to bring it to the Western Cape. And I naturally then got sort of pointed in a meeting to do the routes, which I was keen to do. And I think I kind of wanted it anyway. And then did all the routes for that event. That was not last year's one, before that.
Yeah.
The Montague one. So I got a little bit involved with the sort of event organizing, and but more eventually, once it was decided on venue and town and everything, I did the routes eventually. I tried to stay out of the rest of the politics, because it's quite a lot of organizing and quite a lot of happening behind the scenes stuff.
I'm sure, yeah.
I think the GS community don't really know how lucky they are to have that event. I know it's a in a lot of guys' opinion, a big spend for a weekend on a bike, but there's a lot of organizing and a lot of effort that goes into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that the attendance numbers wasn't that great, especially the Joburg boys. There wasn't that many that came down.
Yeah.
But from an event point of view, it was amazing. It was such a cool thing to have done and been a part of.
Oh, that's great, man.
Although the routes and the riding around that area, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've done some of it. It's just spectacular.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry I missed that one. I wanted to come down, but life always gets in the way.
Yeah, I think we ended up, I can't remember the figure. I think it was 500 Rand more on the entry ticket than the Bratplaas the previous year. So already there was lots of opinions about the price. I think the quality of the food and the entertainment, I mean, it was a different level. It really was amazing. But the ticket price, and then on top of the ticket price, you have to drive all the way to the other side of the country.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll be able to. I don't think we'll ever convince them to do it again.
Yeah.
It definitely was, from an event point of view, amazing, but the attendance didn't. It was only like, I think 150 or 200 people less than in the previous year. But the sad part, and this is what broke the back of it, we had less than 100 people from the Western Cape attending, which is insulting to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's one of my little soapboxes. I get quite annoyed when I talk about it because it's just the amount of effort to make it happen, and then not me, just everybody, the motor team, the local Donfords, the club, everybody bought into this thing, and then these chaps don't bother to go. It's like, it's Montague, I've been there before. It's like, but it's the event, it's not the town. It's just so much more than that.
Well, now they're not allowed to complain ever again that the GS event is not in their backyard.
100%. You have to just shut up and drive all the way to Gauteng.
Exactly.
That's your only two choices.
And preferably, if you're going to whinge and moan, stay at home.
100%.
Kind of thing.
We'll take the Donald Trump line. If you don't like it, leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, listen, dude, we've been talking for 2 hours, almost 2 hours, eh?
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, but that's cool. There's no complaints.
I
think I can even make 2 episodes out of this, which is pretty cool. I like that. Yeah. But anyway, listen, I think let's wrap it up there. But before we go,
sure.
I was going to ask you some little rapid questions, like what would your next bike be? But I think you've answered that already. Well, not really.
Who knows what the answer would be?
Who knows what the answer is? But I'm sure if you could get a 1250 for a reasonable price, at least the HP version, I'm sure you're going to be going for that.
Yeah, 100%. I think honestly, financially, and just something that realistically would stand most of the year, like probably 5 to 6 months out of the year. My wife might ride it every now and then, but it'll stand in the garage. I probably think, it's not set in stone realistically, but I think the bike would probably be a trophy, to be honest. A trophy with a bit of suspension tweaking would be, I think the price range still makes sense to me to go and tuck it around in the sand.
Yeah.
And you're not talking about, 280K for the thing I wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just silly. So anyway, yeah.
Absolutely. And then best advice for new riders? Go get some training?
Obviously training, I think, and you know what, training is one of those things that actually, with the risk of starting the third hours with a conversation, my opinion about training is once you're on the bike is less important. Yes, if you're a lady that's just starting, there's better things to start on than others. 1290 for argument's sake, it's just why? It's just stupid. Don't do it. It's not. You shouldn't be there. You're putting yourself back so many steps just because of the bike, just because it just doesn't fit to what you wanted to do in the first place. So, there's silly decisions, but I think if you have the bike and you're starting, that's more important. And then, yes, for sure, when you know where the clutch is and you're happy to use the clutch and the throttle and get it into third or second gear comfortably, then at that point, already go and do the training.
Yeah.
Because the sooner you do the training, the sooner you don't learn those horrible habits. And you don't have a mountain to climb just to get over your habits. You just start off rock bottom with zero. Yeah. I love training women. I absolutely love training the girls because they listen to what you say. They don't come with the chips. There's no chips on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And they're open to it, so it's easier to teach them. But anyone, it doesn't really matter. But I think the sooner you start with the training, the better off you'd be. Regardless, again, like I said, with bike. But also, what I actually want to say with training is there's the guys, Hein and the guys from ADA, obviously Thomas, and country tracks, kind of countrywide. In Cape Town, we've got Ronnie still does training from time to time. We've obviously got one of my best mates is one of the instructors at country tracks. So obviously I do training, and there's a couple of other guys that do sort of training event here and there. The Bonafide guys with the Triumph scenario, they come down to Anura. Yeah. The BMW Club locally do training. And honestly, I would say, business-wise, it's a stupid thing to say, but this is what I believe. I think if you come to me, do training with me, do the beginner course with me, ride for 2 or 3 months, go to country tracks, do theirs, ride for 2 or 3 months, go to the BMW Club. Yeah. Do at least 2 or 3 of the same level trainings before you move up.
Yeah.
I offer an intermediate day course. We call it the bar raiser. I think Hein and them do different recipes altogether, but they do also day courses, which is slightly more advanced. But everyone else offers only like a intermediate or advanced weekend course. I think the day course is a nice step, it's a nice little easy step before you get into a whole weekend event, purely just because of price. But if you do one training course and you don't ride, then you've wasted your money, regardless of where it's been.
Yeah.
If you only do the beginner, but you're actively riding, you're more than likely a lot more capable and safer on the road than 90% of the other chaps that's done all the courses but never rides.
Yes.
It's so vital to do a course, do some riding. That's one of the things that time-wise and organizing time and all this sort of dramas in between has been difficult to do it perfectly. But I think one of the concepts that I try at least to do is we do a beginner course. 2 or 3 weeks later, you can book a roughly beginner-orientated ride with us. You do a weekend ride, but it's roughly at the same level. And where it's a little bit tough, we're around to help.
Yeah.
And I think those types of things are vital. Whoever you ride with and whoever your bunch of mates is or however you get into it, just go and bloody ride the thing. You have to ride. But for sure, start with the training. I can't preach it enough. And it's also not a case of riding around cones 20 times to know where you put your weight and all these sort of things. It really is just a case of it's like muscle memory.
Yeah.
If you do emergency stop enough and you play, I say to people on the beginner course, you've done that's our last exercise that we do in that day is an emergency stop. You've done this now in a safe training environment. At least once or twice a day on a weekend ride, do your emergency stop and you come to a nice sort of open gravel stretch of the road. Drag the rear wheel a little bit, grab the front brake, and sort of just push your limits a little bit, 2 or 3 times in every ride. Where you feel like there's no one around me, it's nice and safe. I'm out here in the tank, and you just it just becomes muscle memory. So when Frikkie drives in front of you, the bloody tractor in the middle of a road, you didn't expect it. It's the first thing that happens. You're not like, okay, what was it? Weight back, head up, front brake, clutch. It's not like that. It's the first thing you do.
Yeah.
And that only happens when you do it over and over.
Absolutely.
So I absolutely preach it. I think it's in your interest to do it for sure.
And also, like for me, I always say it's about the confidence. It's about, especially when you're doing it in a controlled environment, you have the ability to practice these things, build your confidence, and once you're confident, that's when you actually enjoy it. I mean, if you don't have that confidence and but you want to do dirt, every time you go out on dirt, you're going to feel apprehensive. Your body's going to be stiff, and that's like the worst thing that you should be doing. You should be nice 100%. And relaxed. You should let the bike do its thing, the whole. And also, I mean, like for me, like reading this book. I mean, I read all this stuff before I went. So, okay, I'd never done this, but I mean, the thing is, like, just that whole concept of of steering with your feet and where to put your weight and all that kind of stuff. It makes such a difference. Just those small little things help you enjoy the experience.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting if you do like training events, if you just attend them or you actually do them yourself. It's interesting to see guys that's literally been like, 50, 60-year-old people, guys that's been riding literally their whole lives, but they're on their first, 1200 GS or their first sort of adventure style bike. And when that little switch goes on where they realize like, this is not... It's not the thing I've been yachting around with my patches and leathers for the last 40 years. It's something different. It's a slightly different riding style. And suddenly it's a bike that's been being polished every other weekend that's now out there riding. And to me, ultimately, that's what drives me. It's the thing that makes it exciting to me is to see the guys that's done training posting stuff on Facebook or sending me WhatsApps and say, check the stupid ride I've just been on with my mates or just being out there riding. And it's more than that. It's now there's tires being used, so the tire guy gets the tire fitment. There's services that's being used. There's new bikes being bought. You know what I mean? It drives the whole thing. It makes it ultimately more accessible and more affordable for the rest of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully I don't have the kids, but hopefully my lighty then one day also gets into the riding and gets into that industry because it's strong and alive. It's not, been raped at 60% in the back corner, because everybody needs to make a buck. It's open and accessible. It's more important than to make big profits or to keep it to yourself or any of that silly stuff. I don't think it should never be that. It should always be an open and for everyone thing. It's a passion industry.
Yeah,
It should
absolutely.
stay that way.
It's a lifestyle industry. That's what it is.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
That's
that's why
alive.
I'm sad that your show, look what you're missing. I mean, I love the name, by the way, because I mean it already tells you, okay, shit, am I missing something?
Yeah, I can tell you all the jokes as well.
Yeah, but I mean the thing is that when you're watching those kind of shows, that's what draws people into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
They might be on the tipping point of wanting to get into that kind of thing, and then they actually see what the roads that you're riding, the fun that you're having.
I also want to go there. I also want to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean,
for sure.
I draw a parallel to. I watched this 4x4 show in Australia called Four Wheel Drive Action. I don't know if you've watched it before. I'll go check it out on YouTube. It's two Australian guys. They work for some 4x4 magazine, and obviously then they've got all the sponsors and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure that's how they cover their costs and everything. But they go and they take their 4x4s. They got like a Land Cruiser and a Isuzu D-Max, and they they put them through their paces, and then they camp. So they talk about their about the swag that they've got and the tent and the whatever, and then the one guy does like a cooking show. Like he'll say, okay, tonight we're making this, and he does the whole recipe thing, and so it's and like it makes you want to go out and buy a 4x4 and go and do these things,
Yeah,
anyway,
part of it.
Yeah, part of it. Yeah. Anyway, we could go on for a while. We'll talk about that again. But you were in the tire game. Probably one of the most controversial things that people always talk about is what are the best tires to put on your bike. So let's not start that conversation. Just tell me what tires you like to put on your bike. You don't have to explain why. You just can say which ones.
No, I never really go there for myself, just because stuff has changed over the years. It's less important to me, but I always drag my wife through the mud with this one. And it was this before the exposure I had to the brand, obviously Continental. And just to clarify in the short, starting to watch the tire, it's always been the tire that gives my wife the confidence. If she jumps on a bike and she rides the bike, regardless of the terrain. Not overthinking every corner and every little patch of gravel or every patch of sand. She uses the TKC 80s.
Yes.
She loves having those tires on the bike. We've had other tires on the bike, and there's always attention going to the tire and what the tire is doing rather than just enjoying the ride and the scenery and the bike. And for her, it's always been the TKC 80s. I personally love them as well. They have their problems. Yes. Mileage, blah, 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 all that sort of wild dog dramas. It's there.
Yes.
But you have to clarify it for what she rides and what she enjoys riding, and for her riding style. It gives her the most confidence and makes her happy when she rides the bike. So perfect tire.
Yeah. Perfect.
So yeah, it's a bit of brand loyalty maybe, but I do personally love them as well. They are just cool tires to ride with. They just do the trick.
Yeah.
Budget friendly, mileage friendly, blah blah. No, not so much. But it's a good tire.
Yeah, no, we're not going to worry about mileage. Because I mean, mileage also really depends on how you ride with them on dirt and on the tar. And I got over 10,000 kilometers on my back wheel tire, Karoo 3s.
Yeah.
Over 10,000 kilometers.
Yeah. Easy, doable.
Yeah. And how do I do that? I just don't burn it on the tar.
Yeah, don't ride like an idiot. It's very simple.
Exactly.
You know what? The one thing I've said, being in the industry and doing this sort of stuff, and now I preach it as well, is what you must realize with tires is they're purpose built.
Yeah.
The all-rounder thing doesn't exist. I don't care what the EOS 7 speech is and the Moto's GPS speech and all that sort of stuff. I've heard them all. Ultimately, they're purpose built. They're going to be really good at one thing, not so great at others, or they're going to be not so great at a lot of things. So you need to just pick. If you're happy with something that just works well, and gives you good mileage, then it works for you. So great, go with it.
Yeah.
If you want everything, you want all the grip, and you want all the confidence, then you buy something appropriate.
Yeah.
This one shoe fits it all thing, I think, is probably the biggest problem with tire decisions or tire conversations.
No, you can't, because I think when you choose a tire, it's always about compromise. You have to compromise something.
Amen.
So like with the Kuru 3s, I like the Kuru 3s. I put them on my bike. I rode with them for a while. I really liked them. I feel confident with them on the dirt. They're fine on the tar. The only thing I need to be very, very careful of is wet tar. That's it.
Yeah, sure. But you know it, and you're riding
accordingly.
Yeah,
exactly. And I just ride accordingly. So
you know what I've said to a bunch of people? I've shut a couple of people up in my shop like that in the fitness center, because as soon as this conversation starts, it's all the opinions and stuff rolls. And I always go back, maybe, doing training, it makes it easier to say this. But I always say to the guys, it's very simple. If you've got issues with the tires, work on your skills. It's the simplest way to fix a tire problem.
Yeah.
You've got issues with the mileage in your tire, fix your skills. Yeah. It's very simple. Exactly. That's the only thing you have to do. Yeah. If you like Byron Kotzee and these sort of mates, they do stupid stuff on used road tires, full on road slicks, as the guys like to call them, a completely worn, destroyed version of that. Byron will still kick your ass.
Yeah.
Going up a rough, rocky ridge or something, and you've got a brand new bike with brand new tires. So fix your skills. It's just. It's not a nice thing to say, but that's all you have to do.
Yeah, but there's one way to keep him quiet. So one way to keep him quiet.
It normally just diverts the conversation into something else.
Yeah. And then the last question, what's on your bucket list in terms of places to go on your bike?
There's a million things, and like the Mongolia one was huge for me. The fact that it's now only happening next year is just a little irritating, but that was a big one, I think. I've been wanting to go there for I don't even know how long. It's just one of those weird countries where it just seems like you properly out there.
Yeah.
But a closer to home one, strangely, is Namibia.
Okay.
I've planned from 4x4 trips with friends in vans and things like that, and bike trips, and one of those things, it's just somehow never worked out. It's always been business, don't have time, or don't have money now, we'll do it later, and it's just always been something that's sort of fallen in front of that. So Namibia has been avoiding me for a long time. Botswana I've ridden, I've been sort of into Zimbabwe a little bit, Swazi, Lesotho, all these sort of places, which has all been amazing. But Namibia is just a bucket list, I think, for any local sort of bike rider. If I have to pick a sort of local, sensible, small one, reachable one, that would be it.
Cool.
Everything else would be eventually on the list as well. I think everybody that knows me longer than a week would say that it's very simple. If I, get paid out for my, Facebook program I just created, or win the lotto, or one of those stupid things, it's just say goodbye when you see me, because you probably won't see me again for a very long time. It'll just be a bike and off into Africa, and then see what's next.
Yeah.
It's always been there. So there's nothing. I think Namibia would be the quickest one on the list.
The quickest one, yeah.
The one that's really realistically in reach right now,
Yeah, when lockdown's over. Huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, Henk, it was great chatting. Thanks so much.
Awesome, man. Yeah, cool, man. It was lekker.
Well, there you have it. That's the end of part 2 of my conversation with Henk Kotzee. If you're interested in adventure motorcycling, if you've never been for training and you're living in the Cape, I recommend you look Henk up. All the contact details are in the show notes. If you want to do some tours, either in this country or overseas, after lockdown has ended, again, the contact details or the links are in the show notes. Anyway, guys, as usual, please don't forget to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, follow on Spotify, reach out and drop me a DM on Facebook or Instagram. And that, my friends, is the end. I'll catch you next time.